My name is Kyle Hewitt. I'm a senior, and it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker this evening, who is not a guest, but rather a friend of Hillsdale College. Guests come and go, but friends are here to stay. Don Tocco discovered Hillsdale College when reading an Imprimis newsletter in 2002. He quickly realized our higher purpose and our challenges, recognizing we provide a great environment for a true liberal arts education without governmental funding, motivated him to create a personal and financial outreach to Hillsdale. To begin, Don founded the Tocco Sports Challenge to compete with our best athletes for scholarship money each year, awarding $25,000 to the winner. After 10 years and a 7-3 win-loss record, he shifted focus to our leadership groups for a more direct impact. Soon after coming to campus, he was invited to be on the President's Advisory Board, judge the Everett Oratory Contest, and he has completed a sculpture which currently is in our art center, and he has helped us save over $2 million on our building programs. In 2006, he tried out for our baseball team, and in 2010, he was given the coveted Honorary Alumnus Award. My personal contact with Mr. Tocco has been a bit more personal, and I can sincerely say that as I've gotten to know him, the substance he has to offer as a human in pursuit of higher things his entire life, trying to improve both himself and those around him as much as he can, is absolutely exemplary. Mr. Tocco's messages on leadership have been heard by students from 70 countries and every state in America over the past 30 years. He has spoken on the campuses of the University of Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State, Northwood University, Arizona State, Tufts University, Rice University, Johns Hopkins, but most importantly, Hillsdale. This evening, Don has prepared an important and special presentation on how we can discover our God-given talents and develop them fully into skill sets for a more successful life. Tonight, he will help us focus on proven methods used by him as well as by 5 of his great mentors. So, for some exciting ideas on our future, please welcome Don Tocco.
Good evening, Chargers. What a handsome, handsome group of young people. Kyle, I want to thank you for your kind introduction, your personal note. He will be possibly one of your future instructors, professors of philosophy. He's a terrific, smart young guy. We first met about 4 years ago. We started playing chess. I beat him every time. This last couple of times he's beaten me, and we're going to stop playing. That sounds like something Dr. Girard would do. No, just kidding. These things don't happen in a vacuum, so first I want to thank you, the student, for taking your valuable time to be with us this evening. But also, I'd like to thank Ashlyn, who did such a fantastic job, once again, of putting this thing together almost as though we're magic in a matter of less than 2 weeks. Let's give her some appreciation back there by the exit. Thank you. If you have been to other presentations that I have done, then you will hear the same opening, very similar opening, almost every single time, because it's imperative that I explain to you each and every time that I'm here for very, very specific reasons. And that first and foremost reason is to recognize this great school as the #1 liberal arts college in the United States, period. It is to recognize you as exceedingly bright young students who are the future of this country and perhaps beyond. And for those who have been given much, and you have, and you know you're smart, you could not be here otherwise, then much is expected of you. And when I discovered the college 17 years ago, what occurred to me was there must be a plethora of extremely bright young people with tremendous leadership abilities. The question is, will you develop it? And if you do, how will you use it? And I'm here to tell you, and I think it is easily agreed, that this country is in trouble like perhaps it hasn't been since our founding. So I'm here to ask you to think about what Aristotle tells us is the highest calling of service to the state, and that is take a position in government. I want to encourage you tonight to think about eventual service to this great United States of America. And I will say this, that I will take and put any one of you up against Ocasio-Cortez tonight or tomorrow morning and blow the doors off. Come on. Come on. Jeez, oh man. She's a bartender. 4% of her district voted, so she got 2.what% and making all those noises. Imagine if any one of us here, if any one of you, had the platform she has to talk about the greatness of this country, its founding, and its potential. We'd be back on track as a country. Now, I know you're probably saying to yourself, now, Mr. Tocco, politics? Are you crazy? We know it's corrupt. It is absolutely corrupt, and I would not argue for 1 minute. So I say this, if not you, then who? And if we are not willing to face and going against that corruption, it is never going to change. So tonight, I'm hoping to plant the seeds of greatness in you in many different ways, not the least of which, serving this great country. Topic tonight, discovering your God-given talents. And to discover them, they must be there. And I'm just wondering if at this point in time, because many of you are at least 18, some 21, maybe 22, how many think that they have a feel for at least one of their God-given talents? Show of hands. Okay, that's about 41%. You know that most statistics, actually, 47% of all statistics are made up on the spot. So it looked like about 40%. A lot of hands did not go up. That doesn't concern me deeply, but it does concern me. But it makes me more empathic, and it makes me more passionate about the idea that we can tonight move you to start recognizing some of those God-given talents that remain hidden to you at this point in time. You can see to my left and right, there is a photo. And this evening, I'd like to dedicate this presentation, this program, to that gentleman and to his memory. And he is Joe Girard. His accomplishments, astounding. Fired from 10 jobs by the time he was 37. Couldn't put a bag of groceries on his family's kitchen table. But he had a great deal of talent and a great deal of ability. He didn't know what it was, but he was desperate to do something. And what he discovered is he possessed tremendous passion and enthusiasm. He just had to have a place to exhibit it. And he went up to a car dealership not too far from his home, and he begged the owner, please, let me sell cars. The guy says, sorry, Joe, we don't have any room, we don't have any need. And he begged hard enough that they gave him a small desk above the office in what would be the equivalent of a closet today. He took that opportunity, and with that tremendous enthusiasm and passion, he turned himself into the greatest salesman in the world. And he did that by selling 6 cars on average every single working day for 12 years. He was emblematic of what we call burning desire. And that is that intense feeling down inside that says, I want to, I can, and I will. Tonight what we're going to do is blend the 5 dynamic keys for achievement, one being passion and burning desire, with characteristics that you will hear about my 5 great friends that I'm going to be sharing their lives, their deeper thoughts, and their accomplishments. And I think by planting this seed, and I'm hoping that as you listen, you will say to yourself, I can relate to Don Peterson. I understand that talent and gift that Alan Mullally had for conviction. Yes, Mr. Lundy, what an amazing person, given his time, all excess time, all time available outside of business given to his church to serve his God. And we will conclude with a man who has tremendous courage, had it, has it, and needs it now more than ever. And you're going to be a big part of possibly saving his life. So there are 5 dynamic steps in this process. There are 5 amazing people that I'm going to be showcasing, and we'll do it concurrently. And we just started, of course, with Mr. Girard. And that first step, and no one goes beyond the first step. You cannot, you will not, I did not, I could not, unless we can discover within us, entheos, God within, enthusiasm. And what I learned from Joe, we became friends in 1979. And of course, at that time, he just stopped selling cars, and instead he was writing books. He wrote 11 books, 4 on the New York Times best-selling list. And I got to know him pretty well, and I said, Joe, I said, let me ask you a question. I said, this idea of selling all these cars, I said, you must have got one hell of a discount from General Motors and passed it on to the customer. He goes, no. He said, they didn't always get the best price, but they always got the best Joe Girard. I said, Joe, what are you saying? He said, Don, I was selling my enthusiasm. I said, Joe, that means you're telling me that every day you were enthused. And he said, well, I didn't wake up every day enthused, but I never left the house that I wasn't excited to go out and see my customer. I said, how'd you do that, Joe? How did you do that? How could you possibly be enthused and excited going out of the house every single day? And he said, okay, I'm going to give you the secret. Hillsdale College Chargers, you want to hear the secret? Oh, yeah. Now you're talking. He said that is when I would go to the full-length mirror hanging on my garage door, and I would look in that full mirror after I got dressed up, put on a nice suit. I would ask myself 2 questions. Joe, do you look like the kind of person that someone would want to buy a car from today? Handsome devil that I am, I always said yes to that one. He said, then I would ask myself this question. Do you have the energy to cause people to move to your way of thinking? Wasn't always yes. He said, that is when I gave myself the secret pep talk. He said, I'd look at myself in that mirror and I'd say, I feel good. I feel great. Look out, world. I'm coming out one more time. Woo! Now, I didn't... Thank you. Bless you. That's for Joe. He's watching. So I asked the question, how did you start your day today? Do you remember how you started your day today? Do you remember how you walked out the door to face your world, your classes, your friends, your teammates, your future? If you left the house this morning with anything less than that kind of energy, you cheated yourself out of a truly great day. And starting tomorrow, I encourage you, let's buy into Joe Girard's idea of starting our day with passion and energy. Start that day with, I feel good. Let me hear it one time. I feel good. Come on, Hillsdale. Here we go. Let's get the hands going. Here we go. I feel good. I feel great. Look out, world. I'm coming out one more time. Woo! Give yourselves some appreciation. Amazing. That's impressive, man. That is impressive. I'm telling you something. That is really impressive. You got me so excited I lost my place here. No, I'm just kidding. That's step one. That is step one. And step two, and you cannot thrive and survive, in my observation, in this school, if you are not well organized and not utilizing your time optimally. So in doing that, we have to have objectives. You have objectives. You have plans. You have visions that you want to see manifest and take place in your life. And that is the second and a critical part of our go-forward plan to discover our God-given talents and advance ourselves in some great way. Remember tonight, I'm planting the seeds of greatness. I'm sharing ideas of people who have done great things, who started small, and somewhere along the line they began to think big. Joe Girard, 10 jobs, fired, and as he passes on, number one salesman in the world according to the Guinness Book of World Records. There's 14 million salespeople in this country. Top dog for 12 years. Now we move to this idea of this organizational capacity. And I share with you a gentleman's life who was from a poor farming family in California. Never thought he would ever get off, if you will, the farm or ever have much chance at anything. But one thing he was always good at, beside being smart, like you guys, he really, really had a plan. He was always thinking about planning things. He always had objectives. And so consequently, everything he did was organized and planned. And as he got out, when he got out of the service, he decided he wanted to go east, not west. He wanted to go east, and he found himself interviewing with Ford Motor Company. A young man from a dirt poor family starts out in the planning group, and fast forward ends up running as chairman the second largest corporation in the world. How do we go from oblivion to incredible achievement and success? That's Don Peterson, who I was with Sunday for 2.5 hours. And he loves to reflect on his amazing life of running Ford Motor Company and changing how things were done at that company. And what he was able to do, because he was so well organized, he got other people to buy into his dreams, his aspirations, his incentives. He was easy to follow because he was a nice guy. He was a smart guy, a nice guy, and was incredibly well organized. He had his objectives, his plans, and his goals. How many here have future objectives, plans, and goals? Can I see a show of hands? Put them way up there. Now look around you. That's extraordinary. I mean, that's like 90%. That is a huge, huge thing. Because a plan or a goal, and I hope you are writing these down, becomes incredibly potent. In fact, so powerful when a goal and a plan is written that R. U. Garvey did a study back about 25 years ago of, it was actually Harvard students, and what he discerned was those students that had plans and goals written down up to graduation, 10 years after graduation, were out-earning 3%, were out-earning the other 97% by a factor of 10. So how about we give ourselves an incredible raise in our lives? Do you think financially it's worth writing goals down? If you can increase your income when you're 32 years old, or whatever you are 10 years from now, by a factor of 10 over your peers, that's a good investment. Well, Don was great about writing things down, having plans, goals, and objectives. A truly astounding person who, in his process of planning, took over the truck group 42 years ago. His guys looked at it and said, "We need a new pickup truck." What do you think they developed 42 years ago? The Ford F-150. The Ford F-150, which still to this day is the #1 truck of its kind in the world. Don Peterson was the guy behind that. Now, I'm going to suggest to you also that the devil is in the details, and I can only give you a thumbnail sketch of these critical mass things, but there's nothing stopping you from going out and buying Don's book, A Better Idea, Redefining the Way America Works. In here is a full MBA degree. I really believe that. And I jump back to our buddy Joe Girard. If you want to join the ranks of the 14 million selling something, get his book, How to Sell Anything to Anybody, or Mastering Your Way to the Top. When you get out of here, school is not over. School is never over for the achiever. So, are you organized? Are you planning? Is one of your God-given gifts, or is one of your characteristics a seed of the future of your success? Is it in part being able to be organized and using your time in a prudent manner? So those are the 2 steps, 2 pillars, 2 foundational aspects of how you will advance greatly and smartly. One is to have a burning desire. Let's, so we know that we're following along here. Let me challenge you one more time. Let me hear you say it. It's to have a burning desire. Second, it's for you to be well organized, planned, and have those plans written and reviewed on a regular basis. The third step in this amazing journey is, you'll not be surprised, it's to have faith in yourself and faith in God and an I can attitude. You're looking at Ed Lundy. This gentleman was from a farmland also in Iowa. Had an unillustrious high school activity, didn't do anything consequential, and then found himself in Princeton because he just wanted to get out of Iowa. Anybody go a long way just because they wanted to get away from where they were born and raised? Anybody do that? Yeah, that's what Mr. Lundy did. Well, when he got out there to Princeton, he found out that he was pretty good with numbers. And next thing he found himself doing was teaching at Princeton. So he became a Princeton professor. While he was teaching at Princeton, he also found out that Einstein was teaching at the same school. And Einstein and Ed became friends. Ed and I became friends in 1988 when we were business partners in a restaurant. So if you shake my hand later, you will have shaken the hand that shook the hand of Albert Einstein. That's kind of cool, isn't it? Yeah, I kind of shook the hand. Anyway, at any rate, so Ed then found himself in Washington with another group called the Whiz Kids because he continued testing. And when he tested, when he had the list in the Army, he chose to enlist, he took the Army entrance exam, and when they gave him his score back, lo and behold, he found out it was the highest score ever recorded in the history of the United States Army. Hence, in the Second World War, he was with 10 geniuses, and they helped end World War II 2 years earlier than otherwise would have occurred. When the war was over, Ed Lundy and 9 others all went to Ford Motor Company, and at age 28, he became the CFO, and he remained the CFO for the entire time. Not only was he recognized for that genius, but he also had another love, which I think a lot of us in this room have, and that is a love and a compassion and willingness and desire to help other people. How many like helping other people? That's a God-given gift. That's a talent. And if it's a passion, you may well be able to do what Ed Lundy did. And that is he hired and trained 3,200 people in finance in his 38-year career. And when he retired in 1988, 4 years later, somebody went back and said, let's find out where all these people are at that you hired and trained. And 288 of them were either CEOs, chairmen, or CFOs of major corporations around the world. Farmland to Princeton to the final title in a book called The Reckoning, he is known as the God of industrial finance of the 20th century. Most Fortune 500 companies to this day use his systems and methods for their accounting. But at the center, at the heart of his passion and love, he loved helping other people. He loved bringing them up and teaching them. That's a God-given gift. How many in this room have that? I think a lot of you have that. What are your God-given talents? Let's get in touch with those. Let's begin to think about those as a seed planted and growing. And as it does, your future potential is absolutely incredible. Who can say what you cannot or what you can do as you sit here tonight in a Mecca, in a sea of genius, the best school there is to learn and be disciplined and be organized and develop yourself fully? 3 pillars, 3 foundations, 3 platforms, a passion to excel, the focus using your ideas and objectives to keep you from wasting time and energy, and having faith in yourself and God. I'm going to add one other example here that you may have heard before, but it is one of my all-time favorites. I played a little baseball. In fact, I tried out. Did you hear I tried out for your team? Yeah, I tried out for your team. That was about 10 years ago. Yeah, it was 10 years ago. I tried out for the baseball team. When I shared with Coach Nochi that I was going to do that, he almost had a heart attack. Because he thought, well, if he tries out, I got to take him on the team, right? I mean, he's helping the school. I got to take him. Well, I said, Coach, don't worry about it. I said, let's give me a chance to hit and throw, and see if I can catch and see what happens. Anyway, we had a lot of fun. I tried out practice for 3 days, and I was actually pretty good. And then I said to Coach, now look, if you want me to play, I got to quit my job. I got to quit my day job for 6 months. And I said, but I'm not going to play for a team where the guys don't want me. So the guys are going to have to vote. And I got to have 75%, right? Because you're never going to get 100% of votes. I said, if the guys, if I get 75, I said, then I'll play. Well, anyway, so Coach said, we think you're good enough to play. And then the guys voted. And take a guess how the voting came out. Anybody want to guess? Who said 3%? No. I actually got 75%. So then I had to make a decision to quit my job. And then I sat down to talk to the boss. I said, can you take this kind of cut and pay? Well, I am the boss. And it was like, no, I can't take I can't take the cut and pay. Anyway, so and sadly, well, I did make your team, but I didn't play for the Chargers. I would have loved it. But I have this baseball. I digress. So I met a gentleman in 1977, and he was a world-famous baseball player. Walked into Studio D. He was being interviewed by a big radio station, and I introduced myself. And I said, sir, I said, would you please sign these 3 baseballs? And so he took one at a time, and I gave him the name. Signed this one for me to Don. And while he's sitting there, now this guy is world famous. And I thought to myself, well, he can't go anywhere. Maybe ask him a question. I said, sir, may I ask you a question? He kind of looked up, he said, sure. I said, what characteristics did you develop to become a world famous ball player? He stopped for a second. He said, I've always had an I can attitude. I said, I'm thinking to myself, I've heard that before. And he continued to sign. Then he looked up, he said, one more thing. He said, I had some really tough times when I was playing ball. Had a lot of pressure, some injuries. And he said, it looked like there was a very real chance I was going to have to be actually pushed out of the game. He said, but that is when I gave my life to God. And from that time forward, we always got the job done together. And I will never forget, as long as I live, still today, baseball's home run king, Hank Aaron, 755 home runs. Now, I know for you baseball aficionados that you're going to tell me that somebody out there had more home runs than they did, but they did it with drugs. And we don't count that. We don't count that. We do it the old-fashioned way. We do it the way Hillsdale does it. We do it the right way. So, this idea of faith in self, faith in God, and I can attitude is emblematic. Every single person who has succeeded greatly has used this and the other 2 characteristics. Let these ideas, let these seeds be planted. Let the power of these ideas filter into your consciousness and into your spirit, because there is greatness resident within you. And I just wonder, where will you be 10 years, 20 years, 40 years from now? Maybe, just maybe, somebody will be pointing to you in a sculpture or in a picture and say, that's the person that changed my life. So those are the first 3 pillars, the 3 foundational aspects for a great life, for an extraordinary life, I think discovering God-given talent, self, and getting ourselves moving. So just so I know you're following along, that number 1 is to have a with some feeling, it's to have a burning desire. Step number 2, you and I must have objective, specific goals and plans measured in time and quantity. And step number 3, to have, possess, to maintain, and let that God-given I can attitude blossom. Faith in self, faith in God. 4 is a wonderful, wonderful stage in this development. And number 4 is you and I must have persistence. Persistence. Persistence has a cousin called determination. I think some of you remember that from last year. Who was here last year? Oh, about half. That's good. So it is, everybody together, it's to have determination. That is that commitment down inside, that feeling that causes us to move to conviction. And let me tell you how incredibly powerful conviction is. We got a new picture? Okay. Who is that? Anybody know who that is? That individual is a man who was a professional tennis player. A professional tennis player was his first career. And then, in 2011, he was recognized as the number one CEO in America. Alan Mulally, one of the greatest leaders this country has ever seen. And what did he do to get the distinction of becoming the number one CEO in America? He accepted the challenge of taking on the failing Ford Motor Company in 2006. And I will tell you, if you take the acronym DOA, Dead on Arrival, that's where Ford Motor Company was at. It was in lockstep with General Motors and Chrysler Corporation on the way to going out of business, Chapter 7, Chapter 11, hasta la vista, baby. But someone was smart enough, bold enough, to reach out to Alan Mulally and say, would you consider taking on the challenge of saving this company? It was an act of insanity. And obviously, since I have a picture of him, I must know him. I actually did that sculpture of him, and I did the sculpts of the other ones you saw as well. But this one is in the Automotive Hall of Fame. So when I got to know him well enough, I said, Alan, why would you ever take on the Ford Motor Challenge? And he said, because I thought it would be a tremendous opportunity to save an American iconic corporation. I had to. I had the conviction to make it happen. The determination, the D. You guys like that, don't you? I know. So let's do it. Let's do it. Because we're not going anywhere without it. We might as well get used to the feeling. Here we go. It's to have determination. You guys are the best, I tell you. This is the best. That's why I love today. I do this once a year. I look forward to this like nothing else throughout the entire year. So Alan Mulally, from a tennis player to number one CEO in America, the following year, he was recognized as the third greatest leader in the world. But how does a guy do this? How does anybody do this? He went to Ford to change a culture. So how do you change a culture? You show up with a smile on your face, and you tell everybody you have a new idea. You have a vision. Guys, do you want a job tomorrow? Let's get on board. Get on board. We're going to call it One Ford. Everybody, from the maintenance guy to the executive VP to the co-chair, everybody gets on board with the idea of One Ford. We wake up with that idea. We go to bed with that idea. He started working there, and he started coming in at 5:30 in the morning. Then he found out that somebody was coming in at 5:15. So he started coming in at 5 because he didn't want anybody coming in before him. Then he would go home at 6:30, but he found out that somebody in another building was going home after 6:30. So he started going home at 7 o'clock in the evening. In at 5, home at 7. That is conviction. And every single day, he led his team with his vision, his passion, his determination. Truly, easily one of the most extraordinary men on the planet, let alone in America. Now, how many here think they might eventually, one day, like to be involved in some kind of business enterprise? Show of hands. Some kind of business leadership role. Okay, that's about 35%. As I said earlier, the devil is in the details. I could talk to you for a couple hours about Alan's strategies and his tactics and his methods and his genius, but you'd be much better off if you bought his book, this book, by Bryce Hoffman. It's entitled American Icon, How Alan Mulally Saved Ford Motor Company. There is a movement literally around the globe. It's a business model. It's like getting an MBA. It's a business model that corporations are adapting from this book. All you have to do is go out and make an investment if you think you're interested in becoming a leader in a major way. Those are the first four, the only four, plus one, in terms of pillars, foundational perspectives, that you and I must be affectionate with. We must take these into our heart, into our mind, and allow God to move them in such a way we will become powerful. In this room, I have zero doubt that there is a future congressman or woman, that there is a future senator. Yes, maybe a future president. We are going to be desperate as we move forward in leadership. And by the way, I was with Dr. Arnn. How many have met Dr. Arnn personally? He's quite a guy. I like Dr. Arnn. Without Dr. Arnn, without his permission, I can't be here. So I love Dr. Arnn. And I was with him about 3 weeks ago in the morning, one morning, for about close to an hour. And I said, Larry, I'm going to be back in a couple weeks sharing ideas with your brilliant young students. Oh, he said, really? And he said, what are you telling them? I said, well, I'm telling them things about the good. About the good. And he said, oh, that's nice. I like that. And I said, well, I'm telling them some other things too beyond the good, as you know it philosophically. And I said, I'm doing it because I think we need more Hillsdale College students engaged in politics in Washington. His chest kind of went out a little bit. He said, yeah. He said, do you know we've got more Hillsdale students active in Washington than we ever had in the history of this school? I said, I did not know that, but I'm excited to hear it. Who will be the next to make the decision, take on the challenge, and move into leadership roles? Now, once we have been able to grasp the dynamics of this determination, conviction, the burning desire, the organizational capacity, faith in self, faith in God, we need to sustain and maintain that. And I don't think there's a better way to do it than by continuously challenging your mind by reading. So how many picked this up this evening when you came in? How many saw this? This is the No Grades booklet. If you're a freshman or you've not heard a presentation I've done, I brought a couple hundred of these. I highly recommend you grasp one of them. Take it and read it, maybe wait till the summer. It's not that difficult, but it's good reading. It's a good read. And it's entitled, There Are No Grades in the Real World. How many think that's pretty cool? So if there's no grades, then there's no homework. That's better yet. I mean, you guys, wow, I don't know how you do it. Wow. So, read, and read some more. And in this booklet, in the bibliography page, I offer you 14 books. Perhaps the most important one on the list, arguably, is the one on developing people skills, because no matter where we go, what we do, we're going to be engaged with others, unless you're a research scientist and you just have a microscope in your lab and you never talk to anybody. Otherwise, the rest of us have to deal with others. Learn how to deal with others at a high level. Read Mr. Carnegie's book. It's the Bible of dealing with others. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Those then are the 4 steps. Those are the 4 pillars. The first 4 with the final pillar coming. You're going to love it. And just so I know you're following along, number 1 is to possess a burning desire. Number 2 is to have specific objectives and goals measured and written, your goals, your objectives. Number 3, it is to have an I can attitude, faith in self, faith in God. 4th, you and I must be willing to persist and be determined. Determination. Guys, last and finally, you will discover that nothing will happen much in your life. Not much at all. Unless we are willing to take courageous action. Yeah, give yourself some appreciation. Give it to yourself. Yeah. Hell yes. Yeah. I'm talking about courageous action that I saw happen on the field of play back in the fall when the Chargers took it to the competition in football. How many football players do we have here? Got them in the back here. Team 126. Team 126. Team 126. Only one other team. My ring. Only one other team. Thank you. Only one other team in 126 years went as far as Team 126, and that was Team 118 in 2009. Now, there's an astounding coincidence that I like to think is better than just a coincidence, and that is that both of those seasons I was able to open on behalf of those great ball players and those great coaches. And what we had central in that theme those 2 years is an incredibly powerful word that I want to make sure you've got it. Well, I believe you know it. It's a Greek word, and the word is arete. Okay. I am not doing this again next year. Somebody else can come up here. No. Next year. Arete, what a beautiful prized term, taken from the Iliad and the Odyssey, the Greek term, which means to become the best possible you compared to no one else from this day, the rest of your life. If you and I strive only to be the best God planned us to be, we will accomplish a tremendous mission. Arete. Team 126 took it all the way. I wonder what's going to happen with you as you develop your God-given talents, as you come to understand them and begin to develop the skill set. Because really, what is a talent without a skill set? Leonardo da Vinci, you may have as much talent as Leonardo da Vinci. When he was drawing at age 9 or 10, and his uncle or somebody saw him and said, "That is very good, Leonardo. I think you need lessons in art," and took him to Verrocchio, who was a great painter and great sculptor at the time. And Verrocchio saw Da Vinci's talent and said, "Yes, I will teach him skills," and taught Leonardo da Vinci how to paint, and taught him how to sculpt, and taught him how to be an engineer. He taught him so well that Da Vinci took his God-given talent, and after 7 years, when Verrocchio went home one night, a little early, they were working on a magnificent painting. And Da Vinci went up to the painting with his paints, and he painted an angel, yet another angel, into this piece. And when Verrocchio came back the next morning, and he saw the angel that Verrocchio had painted, he knew that his student had surpassed him. And he never, ever touched a paintbrush again. However, he did go on to become the greatest sculptor in the history of the period. So what good are our talents, our God-given talents, unless we have a skill set with which we can mature and use those to serve our fellow men and to serve this great country, to serve our families. So, nothing happens without courageous action. And I'm using as an example a good friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine, who I have known for 40 years. That gentleman has got unbelievable courage because as a young man, he became an attorney and said, yes, I want to do the right things. I want to fight for good causes. And he became a prosecuting attorney. And for 16 years, he fought for those of us in Oakland County. And after those 16 years, he said, I want to do more to help my friends and my family in this county. So he ran for county executive. And for 27 years, L. Brooks Patterson has been the greatest county executive in the United States of America. All in for all that is good, a tremendous, committed conservative. Gets in early, stays late, compassionate, always trying to help other people. Courage to take on a role in government. 7 years ago, he was in a massive head-on collision, 2 cars at 40 miles an hour, like running into a brick wall at 80. His body was crushed, broken, and twisted, and he was unconscious for 5 weeks. I was there. I was on this campus, getting into my vehicle, heading back to my home in Bloomfield Hills, when the news report came on and said, L. Brooks Patterson, County Executive of Oakland County, has been in a really bad accident. I turned, looked over my shoulder, and sitting in the back seat of my vehicle was that sculpt right there, strapped in with a seatbelt. I had yet to give him or present the sculpt to the folks in the city-county building where it now sits on a pedestal, thinking to myself, I bet he did not have his seatbelt on. And he didn't. But miraculously, because of his incredible courage, he survived a 3% chance of living. Continues to serve to this day. And 6 weeks ago, today, 6 weeks ago, we sat down to have dinner, and after about 10 minutes, he looked up and he said to me, Tocco, I've got another challenge. I've got stage 4 pancreatic cancer, which I don't know what you know about that, but it is as serious as any disease anybody could have. Not once in the 6 weeks did he complain, did he whimper. He has been going into work every single day, and what he knows is it's all in God's hands. He is praying vigorously to stay around as long as he can, to be with his 11 grandkids, his kids, his family, and our community. He's a great man. He's a great politician. And I would like you to join myself and all of us in Oakland County and in the great state of Michigan to know what an amazing person he is, and keep him in your prayers, seeing him, envisioning him, finishing up his career down the road, a vital man, but always with his faith in God intact. Because today he is acting with great courage. May each of us, under the worst situations, such as he may be going through, find that courage. We dig down, find that place, find that support, find it part of our God-given talents. Those are the 5 pillars, the 5 foundational aspects of achieving all you and I will ever hope to discover and achieve in our lives, to help us find what our God-given talents are. Yours are absolutely amazing. And I hope as the months and the years unfold that you will shoot me a note periodically or at least maybe Dr. Girard, and say, hey, thought you might want to know, we're kicking some butt. This is what I'm doing. This is how I use the great education at Hillsdale College. Guys, gals, I'm telling you this, you got to stick together. You're never going to go any place in the world where you're going to find what you have here at this incredible university, this incredible college. You're going to go out there and you're going to find it's very lonely. It's very difficult. And there's going to be a lot of people that don't agree, don't understand what truth really is, what our framers meant when they sacrificed life and property to prepare this great nation for us. We have to save it. You have to save it. But you know what? You're going to do it because you know how to do it. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you. I want to check my mailbox. I'm not going to start checking it right away. I don't want you to feel any pressure. But say in about 5 years, let me know how discovering those God-given talents and how using these 5 steps and how you're using your amazing education. And those 5 pillars and those 5 steps are, number 1 is to have a burning desire. Number 2, set goals, objectives, yours, measured in time and quantity. Number 3, to have faith in self and faith in God. And number 4, to have endless conviction, persistence, and determination. And lastly, know that nothing consequential will ever happen to you and I unless we are willing to take courageous action, action, action. And it is always the case, and is always the case, there is only one thing left to do, and that is, let's go out and make it happen. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Well, you are great. You are great. Arete. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Arete, arete in action. Now, we might just have a minute or two, and I'm certainly willing to take any questions that you might have. We officially have concluded, and I am so impressed. I'm always impressed, but I'm especially impressed tonight because I heard this last couple of days how much you guys have to do, how many options you have to go and hear important people share ideas. And so I'm so honored and flattered that you would come and share this time with me this evening. We will be looking at your mission statements, your 17 clubs and organizations that send in your note, mission statement, how you plan to use the monies that we're going to send out to you to improve your organization and the people. So quickly we will figure out who the 10 top organizations are. Plus, I get a chance to learn more about what your groups and organizations are really about, so I can be more intelligent. And when you say, oh, I'm with Enactus, or I know, of course, you got the great volleyball team, great winners back there, and the great football team. Who else has won championships, by the way? Who? Softball, of course, softball. Coach Joe, and Coach Joe's gone? Yeah, okay. Any other championship? We have so many champions in this school. Yeah, so okay, any questions? Any questions, guys? Anything to help clarify? We have a question here.
Hello.
Hi.
I was just wondering, you have, oh, I'm sorry, I'm really close to the speakers. You have beautiful sculptures, and I was just kind of wondering if they were made out of metal and like how you learned how to do that, because you seem like you kind of do a lot of things, and that just seems like something that would be really difficult to do. So if you want to.
Thank you for the compliment.
You're welcome.
Thank you for asking the question. So let's see if what comes up next? A painting?
In front of your book.
Let's see. Let me go back. Tell me if you see a little face with some sticks. What happened?
More.
Go back. Go forward then. Go back. Keep going back.
Again.
Back.
One more.
Back some more? Okay. See, I am technologically competent. Look at this. I just got an iPhone. Okay, hang on a second. Hey. Oh, yeah. So I'm going to take my first pictures with it. Okay? Wow. Okay. Okay. Wow, okay. All right. Awesome, thanks for that. No, I'm serious. Those are the first 3 picks. So to go back to the question, the sculptures, the sculpt that you're looking at. So when we talk about developing our God-given talents. So I did that. That's the first sculpture that I ever did when I was 21. And I was broke and was still living with my parents, not a good thing. And I came home one night, and on the kitchen table, there was a block of clay about the size of a softball. So because I had no money and I had nothing else to do, I decided I would try to sculpt. So that's what came out after 3 hours. That was the first piece. And the next day, my mother saw it, and she said, where did you get that? I said, what do you mean, where did I get it? She said, where'd you get it? I said, that was the clay that was on the kitchen, on the counter. She goes, you didn't do that. I said, yeah, I did that. That's where I think it came from. She goes, well, that's pretty good. So when your mom tells you that you've done something that's pretty good, you say, hey, maybe I can be better. So I started sculpting a few years later. I did a sculpt of my grandfather, but I never had any classes, never took any classes. But I just kept sculpting, and eventually they started coming out pretty good. And 3 of those pieces that you saw, 3 of those are in the Automotive Hall of Fame in Dearborn, Michigan. So a God-given talent, and the skill set was, just a developed skill set. So think about that. What in you, what resident gift in you lies dormant? How do you find these gifts? I say you try and keep trying as many things as you possibly can. Music, the arts, read. Try different sports, try different music. Try until you've exhausted the possibilities. Because we don't know what is our genius. And I think there's 2 great days in a person's life, the day they're born and the day they discover their purpose, which is wrapped around those God-given talents. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? No. Any question? We have one. We have another question. And by the way, I'm just going to take 1 or 2 more, and with respect to your time. I know you got finals coming up. You got finals coming up? Wow. Man. Those long, arduous thesis papers. Yes, question.
Hi. Today you talked about men who were inspired to leave their hometown and to make it out and become successful. So
Yes.
I and my team were wondering what your inspiration was to become successful and to come talk to us today.
What my inspiration
What your
was?
inspiration was.
Oh, no, thank
the
you.
start, the spark.
Thank you. So thank you. That's really a great question. So by age 21, by age 21, I was $40,000 in debt. I was driving an old beater with the back end caved in from one accident, and the left rear quarter panel caved in from another accident. Well, I was dating Nancy at the time, and I remember the first time I went over to pick her up, I parked the good side of the car facing her parents' house. Because, like, you don't want the old man running out saying, hey, you're not going out with that loser. Kind of the guy's in demolition anyway. So I, at that point, had no recognizable talents or gifts. I had zero. I had gotten all the way through high school. I had gotten all the way through 2 years of community college. And no one, all that education failed me. Not one single teacher, not one single test was ever given to me that said, hey, look at this. You might have some talent over here. So look, here we are, here you are. You have arrived at this great school. Have you ever had a test? Have you ever had in your remedial education anybody say to you, hey, take this, we think we found some genius in you. Has anybody ever had that happen? I see maybe 2 or 3 hands. That's pathetic. I call that failed education. This country is failing us desperately, and your younger brothers and sisters and the rest of the young Americans, failing them desperately by giving them reading, writing, arithmetic without the hope of something wonderful and brilliant. So what I did at 21 is I started praying. And I prayed one night in particular. I remember like it was yesterday. And I literally, it was raining, and I was, as I said, still living with my parents. And I was standing outside their house, and I put my hands up in the air, and I looked up in the sky, and I said, God, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. I need some help and direction. All I know is I want to help people. I want to help as many people as I can, but I can't help anybody unless I can help myself. And it was no more than 1 month, and somebody gave me a book. The book was entitled The Magic of Believing. It's in here. It's one of the recommended readings. And I read it, and I thought to myself, I'm not believing strong enough. I need to start thinking about creating magic. And then somebody else gave me a book 4 months later. And in a period of 3 years, 14 different people gave me 14 books. This is my advanced degree. That's God's hand answering my prayer. In the meantime, I had 7 jobs in 7 years until one day, while driving down the freeway in a rainstorm, it hit me. Well, I'm looking at all this industry down by the Rouge complex, and I thought to myself, look at all that money down there. Look at all those buildings, massive industry. What do those buildings have in common? Somebody had to build them, and somebody has to maintain them. What if I had a group of companies? What if I could put together a group of companies to help build and maintain those properties? And so I went to the Yellow Pages, and I called the guy, and I said, hey, would you like to grow your business? He's like, what? I said, I have an idea. How do you grow your business? He goes, Yellow Pages. I said, well, what if you want to grow it specifically? Come in and talk to me. So we had a 1-hour visit, and I said, here's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to go out there in the world and take your company literature and call on plant engineers and buyers who are the people responsible for this kind of work. And you know what? Maybe I can help you grow your business, and if I do, you got to pay me a commission. And he goes, well, what have I got to lose? I said, nothing. And that was the beginning of my business. And that came from prayer, and that came from reading, and that came from developing a skill set, because for 9 years I took night classes. For 9 years I took night classes. developing a skill set in marketing and communications. So it's not by any chance, I didn't wake up one day and have a few extra million and decide to give some of it to Hillsdale College. So when you get a check from me, when you get help from me, it's from what I earned last week working, because I still work. I love what I do. I use my God-given talents. And I hope for you that you will find these exact avenues, these channels, so you will have the same or better experiences than I've had. Thank you. That's a great question. Any other questions? Yeah, thanks. One more question, and then it's off to do. Oh, by the way, guys, how many here, be honest with me, how many here like homework? Okay, like there's a few people. Like there's like 4 hands went up, right? Like I'm shocked that there's that many. I have the best news for you. You will never have to do homework again. Yeah. However, what you are going to have to do is home opportunity. Yay! Yeah. Learning is an incredible opportunity. It's a great opportunity. So some of you like that, some of you didn't. Anyway, it is a great opportunity. One more question. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time tonight. I just had a question. What is one way that you recommend us be leaders in the work industry if we aren't the CEO, CFO, or involved in politics some way?
What was the first part of the question?
What is one way that you recommend us to be leaders in the workforce if we aren't immediately the CFO or CEO?
Oh, sure. Yes. So it's a process, right? It's a process. So if we go back to Don Peterson, chairman of Ford Motor Company, the guy that his group developed the F-150, the Mustang, the Taurus. He also bought Jaguar. He bought Range Rover. He bought Aston Martin. Brought them all to Ford Motor Company. Don started he hired in as a product planning engineer. So we want to fully expect to start at the beginning, start at the bottom. Be content with that, but be hungry for learning. Be hungry for learning. And as you demonstrate that you can learn, and you have the courage to stand up and talk about, we have to be strong in our presentations. I mean, you guys, this is another thing the school is so well known for. Your debate, your Everett oratory, the brilliant youngsters that do this Everett. There's like 15 or 20 that compete every year. Then it comes down to the final 5, and then, Dr. Arner and I get a chance to experience that genius. I've been a judge, I think, 14 times. It blows my mind how articulate you guys are. So develop that skill set, being able to stand up and articulate your ideas, your passions. Be compassionate, but also be forceful. Nothing can stop the will. Nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. And you may be familiar with politics in England in the 1800s when the prime minister was Jewish. His name was Disraeli. And it was a time when the Jews were hated in Europe, hated in England. And someone asked him, how is it possible that you could be the prime minister? You're a Jew. How could it be? And his answer was, nothing can stop the force of an idea, the force of the human spirit, the force of the will, the force of your will, supported with your God-given talents and a phenomenal skill set to go out there and do great things for yourself, for others, for this college, for this country. And yes, let's go and make it happen, guys.